Greetings and welcome to our daily walk through the scripture for February the 20th. I hope this video finds you well. I hope you had a blessed weekend, enjoyed your President's Day, and now you are ready to take on the week. Well, today's readings hopefully will get you going a little bit. Leviticus. We moved on from Exodus. We're in Leviticus. We finish out chapter 9 and we start chapter 10. And then we finish out Mark chapter 4, and we begin the first 20 verses of Mark 5. And then we have Psalm 37, 30 through 40, and Proverbs chapter 10, 6 through 7. Now we're going to jump a little bit. We're going to jump a little bit from Leviticus, and then we're going to go over to Mark today, and just highlight a couple of observations and things to think about. At the end of chapter 9, we see the beginnings of Aaron's priestly duties. Up to this point, it's been all preparation, it's been all instruction, it's been all, let's get this thing done, let's get going. And so they start, and it pretty much instantly goes very poorly and very badly, at least for Nadab and Abihu, Aaron's two sons that were appointed as priests alongside him, because instantly we see in chapter 10 of Leviticus that they did an unauthorized fire before God. They lit the incense wrong. We're not really clear on what it is that they did or how exactly they did it. This could have been a heart issue as much as it could have been a practical issue, but we lean towards the practical issue just because of the mandates that God has already begun to lay out for the people of Israel and for the priests in particular. And we're not going to spend a ton of time analyzing this, except to say that you really get a contrast between two sets of brothers. When you've got Nadab and Abihu who really make obviously a very poor choice. They don't believe in God's holiness. They don't take God seriously, and God goes, I'm sorry, there was very clear guidelines for this. Contrast that with the end of the chapter, though, when you see the other two sons, the remaining two sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, who approach it with holiness and understanding. In fact, in many ways more so than Moses himself, because if you look at it, remember, Moses gets angry at them because they didn't eat the sin offering, and Eleazar and Ithamar go, it didn't seem like it would have been appropriate to do that today because the sin offering was offered in a bad way. And so we felt like it would be better. And Moses became satisfied because Moses realized that, hey, these are the right guys for it. See, we've seen kind of in the Old Testament how firstborns don't always take their responsibility seriously. And we saw that with the case of Esau. We saw that in the case of actually even Jacob/Israel's sons, that his first few sons were not really great guys. But eventually God places the people that he wants in it. God doesn't necessarily concern about birthright. He concerns about where the heart is and where our hearts and our actions should be. And it's very obvious that Eleazar and Ithamar had the right heart attitude for it. So again, though, this was a reminder of God's holiness. And even though we have Christ now in our lives and we don't have the holies of holies like we did previously, we still have to be very aware that God is a holy God. Remember, God doesn't change. He is a holy God. Okay, now we're going to jump really quickly over to Mark chapter 5, and we look at Jesus restoring a demon-possessed man. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight this is because of where this happened. Now, remember in Matthew, Jesus was pretty much focused on the people of Israel, of taking care of the Israelites, of God's chosen people. And the miracles that Matthew highlighted, with a couple of exceptions, were all Jewish. Mark isn't as concerned about that. Mark is concerned again about showing the suffering servant and is showing his authority. And so here again is another time when Jesus exercises his authority over someone who's demon-possessed. But the location's a little bit different because they crossed over the Sea of Galilee. I have a little map here. Okay, this is Israel. I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, but if you get an idea, so Jerusalem is kind of down here. Okay, Jesus is up here in the Sea of Galilee. Here's the Mediterranean Sea, and he crosses over and he goes to the east, and he goes into this town called Gerasenes, or Gerasenes, depending on how you say it. But what it is it's actually a part of what we call the Decapolis, which means 10 cities. And each one of these cities were Greco-Roman cities. Okay? These were not Jewish cities. These were Greco-Roman. We get some kind of hints that maybe this gentleman wasn't a Jewish by birth, because he is someone who lives over here in the Decapolis. He's someone who is living in a Greco-Roman city, and nearby him are a herd of pigs. Now, pigs, if you remember, in Jewish culture are unclean animals. So you would never catch anybody who was Jewish herding cattle and taking care of cattle. So we get the idea that this is an area that's predominantly Greco-Roman, that's Gentiles, so not born Jews. And so here's Jesus healing someone in an area where he probably was a Gentile. And so this is an important aspect, because Mark is showing that Jesus has authority both not only in Israel, but all over the world and across the world. And this is, again, a very important mark, pun intended, of what Mark is doing, that he's showing that Jesus has authority over everything. Okay, those are your thoughts for today. Have a blessed one. We'll talk next time.